the biggest story of the day, and that is the news that DeWanna Bonner is no longer with the Indiana Fever. It was reported last night that DeWanna Bonner had no intentions on returning to the Indiana Fever, and then the news broke today that the Indiana Fever had indeed.
Dana Bonner thought she could just quit on the Indiana Fever and walk into any team she wanted, but real life just hit her. Like a fast-trained teams across the WNBA are saying no to her with a 10-foot pole after seeing how she left her teammates in the middle of the season. Karma is hitting hard right now. Do you think Dana Bonner deserves to be blocked by other teams after what she did, folks? We are watching one of the most satisfying cases of quick karma in WNBA history right now. Dana Bonner decided she could just quit on the Indiana Fever, left Caitlin Clark and her teammates in the middle of the season, and somehow thought teams would be waiting to sign her. Well, guess what? Real life just gave her a cold plate of payback, and it's really fun to watch.
Statement. She said, "I want to sincerely thank the Indiana Fever for the opportunity to be part of the Fever franchise. Despite our shared goals and excitement heading into the season, I felt the fit did not work out, and I appreciate the organization's willingness to grant my request to move on, particularly at this point in my career. I wish the Fever great success as they continue to build around this dynamic group of young."
Here's what's happening that makes this whole situation even more shameful for Bonner. She's been let go by the Fever, which means any team in the league could pick her up from waivers and she'd get her full pay, all $200,000 of it.
If another team claims her off the waivers, she gets her full salary. She gets her full salary if another team claims her off the waivers.
That's a lot of money in the WNBA, and you'd think teams would be interested in an older player with title-winning experience. Right? Wrong.
DeWanna Bonner really, really bad. It makes DB look really, really bad. And it's the fact that she has told all other teams, other than the Mercury, don't sign her.
Bonner has reportedly told every single team in the league except the Phoenix Mercury not to even trying to sign her. She's basically acting like she's a free agent who gets to pick and choose where she goes, when in truth she's damaged goods that nobody wants. She's doing a Ben Simmons, sitting out and asking to only go to one certain team while ignoring the fact that she's still under contract. The absolute boldness of this woman is shocking. She signs with Indiana, takes their money, gets all the good stuff of being linked with the biggest story in women's basketball, poses for Sports Illustrated covers, plays in front of full crowds, and then when things don't go exactly her way, she just quits, and now she thinks she can control things to the whole league about where she'll play next.
And look, I understand that's where she wants to go. Why didn't she go there in the summer? We know why, because she couldn't have got her max contract. And by the way, people are like, oh, they can give her the minimum. No, they can't. The Phoenix Mercury can give her a prorated $80,000 salary for the rest of the year. So she's only going to lose about 30K-ish. And she's going to lose about 40, 50K. Whereas they would have been only able to sign her earlier on. Well, they would only be able to sign her for nothing. Because again, we can't forget as well, the Phoenix Mercury cut Sevgi Uzun. The Phoenix Mercury have a bunch of players signed on hardships and a bunch of players that they can cut. Like, they literally cap space magicked up. And as soon as cap space magics up for the Indiana or for the Phoenix Mercury.
But here's where it gets really embarrassing for Bonner. The Phoenix Mercury, the one team she really wants to join, reportedly aren't even sure they want her anymore. Think about that for a second. She burned bridges with Indiana specifically to force her way to Phoenix, and now Phoenix is looking at this situation thinking, do we really want someone who quits on their team when things get hard? The Mercury are currently playing well with their young core of role players who have bought into their system. They're winning games with players who really want to be there, who aren't going to leave the team the moment something doesn't go their way. Why would they want to break that chemistry for someone who just shows she's not reliable? Let's talk about the business side of this mess. If another team had picked Bonner off waivers, she would have gotten her full $200,000 pay, but because she's asking to only go to Phoenix, she's probably going to end up signing for a prorated veteran minimum of around $80,000. She's literally losing over $100,000 because she thinks she can control where she plays after quitting on her team. The fact that every other team in the league is staying away from her tells you everything you need to know about how this situation is seen around the league. GMs and coaches are looking at what Bonner did and thinking if she'll quit on Indiana when they need her most. What's to stop her from quitting on us? That's not the kind of name you want to have in a league with only 144 roster spots. This whole situation makes Bonner look very short-sighted and selfish. If she really wanted to play for Phoenix so badly, why didn't she just sign with them in the first place during free agency? Everyone knew the Mercury were interested in her. Everyone knew she had a friendship with Alyssa Thomas. Everyone knew that's where she wanted to be, but she chose the money and spotlight that came with signing in Indiana. Instead, now she's trying to have it both ways, take Indiana's money and attention, then force her way to Phoenix when it's easy for her. That's not how professional sports work, and it's definitely not how you build trust with teams and teammates. The worst part is how this hurts Caitlin Clark and the other young players on the Fever. These players looked up to Bonner as a veteran leader, someone who was supposed to guide them through the pressure of playing for the league's most watched team. Instead, she showed them that when things get hard you can just quit and walk away. That's not leadership, that's giving up. Clark specifically was excited about playing with Bonner. You could see it in preseason how much work Clark put into building teamwork with her. For one of the first times in Clark's career, she's basically been told by someone she admired that they didn't want to play with her. That has to hurt, and it probably explains some of Clark's recent problems on the court. The Jimmy Butler comparisons are perfect because what Butler did in Philadelphia was widely criticized as unprofessional and bad for team culture. The difference is Butler was at least still a top-level player when he forced his way out. Bonner is 36 years old and clearly going down, yet she's acting like she has the power of a superstar. Then Simmons is another perfect comparison because he also sat out and asked for a trade while still under contract. The difference is Simmons was younger and thought to have more value. Bonner is near the end of her career and just showed every team in the league that she's willing to quit when things don't go her way. What makes this even more silly is that Bonner's complaints about her role in Indiana seemed really too much. She was a starter, she was getting big minutes, she was being featured in the offense. Yes, the wasn't playing as well as hoped, but that's not a reason to leave your teammates in the middle of the season. The fact that she's telling teams not to pick her up from waivers shows how spoiled she's become. She thinks she can control the whole process, make rules for the league, and force her way to exactly where she wants to go without any punishment. Well, the punishment is here, and it's not nice. Teams around the league are basically treating Bonner like she has a disease right now. No GM wants to be the one who brings in a player who just shows she'll quit on her team when things get hard. That's bad for team culture and sends a terrible message to other players on the team. The Mercury's doubt is especially clear because they're the one team she really wants to join. If even they're having second thoughts about bringing in someone who forced their way out of their last team, that shows you how bad this looks from the outside. Phoenix is also in a good spot right now with their current team setup. They have young players who are helping and buying into their system. Why would they want to possibly break that for a 36-year-old who just quit on her last team? It doesn't make basketball sense or team culture sense. The money part makes this even more embarrassing for Bonner. She's going to lose a lot of money because of her choice to force her way out instead of keeping her contract and getting her full pay. She's probably going to end up making half of what she was supposed to get this season. The timing of her leaving also makes it worse. This happened right when Caitlin Clark was coming back from injury, right when the team needed veteran leadership the most. Instead of stepping up and helping the team through a hard time, Bonner chose to make more trouble and drama. The media's not wanting to blame Bonner for this choice is also annoying, but normal WNBA media often protects players even when they make clearly wrong choices, but fans aren't buying if they can see this situation for what it is, which is an older player selfishly leaving her team. The example this sets is very bad for the league. If players can just quit in the middle of the season and force their way to the team they want without real punishment, why would anyone keep their contracts? Why would teams spend time building team spirit and teamwork if players can just leave anytime they want? Bonner's name will be damaged forever by this choice. Instead of being remembered as a good veteran who helped many teams during her career, she's going to be remembered as the player who quit on Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever when they needed her most. The fact that she's basically holding out for one specific team while under contract shows a total lack of respect for being professional. She's acting like she's bigger than the league, bigger than contracts, bigger than promises. That's not how pro sports work, and it's definitely not how you keep respect around the league. The silence from other older players is also telling. Usually when a player gets treated unfairly by a team, other players speak up to help. The fact that nobody is defending Bonner's choice tells you how it's seen by her peers. Teams are probably also worried about the message signing Bonner would send to their current players. If you reward someone for quitting on their team, what does that tell your own players about promise and professionalism? It's a bad example to set. The Mercury would also have to cut another player to make space for Bonner, which means breaking their current team setup for someone who just showed she's not reliable. That's a lot of risk for very little gain, especially given Bonner's age and falling performance. This whole situation is a great example of how not to deal with being unhappy with your job. Instead of fixing problems, talking with coaches and bosses, or simply following your contract, Bonner chose the nuclear option and burned everything down. The karma of this situation is almost too perfect. Bonner thought she could trick the system to get exactly what she wanted, and instead she's finding out that actions have results. Teams don't want players who quit, coaches don't want players who leave their teammates, and GMs don't want to invest in someone who might just walk away when things get hard. What's really sad is how Bonner is trying to say this is a basketball choice when everyone can see it's really about her wanting to play with her girlfriend Alyssa Thomas in Phoenix. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be near your partner, but don't lie about it and don't leave your professional promises to make it happen. The fact that she waited until Phoenix had cap space open before suddenly saying she couldn't play for Indiana anymore is very suspicious. It's almost like this was planned from the start. Take Indiana's money and attention until Phoenix could pay her, then force a move. That's not just unprofessional, it's almost cheating. The fact that she's willing to sit out and lose money just to force her way to Phoenix shows how little she really cares about basketball at this point. If she really loved the game and wanted to play, she'd follow her contract and try to make things work in Indiana. Instead, she's choosing personal wants over professional duties. Teams are also probably worried about the example this sets for other players. If Bonner gets rewarded for this behavior by getting to go where she wants, what stops other players from doing the same thing? It could create a chain reaction of players leaving their teams whenever they're unhappy. The WNBA can't afford to have players treating contracts like suggestions. The league is still building its trust and name, and having veteran players quit mid-season sends a bad message about the professionalism and strength of the organization. Bonner's supporters are trying to say this is her standing up for herself and making a business choice, but that's complete nonsense. A business choice would be following your contract, being professional, and handling your problems privately. This is the opposite of a business choice. It's an emotional fit that's going to cost her money and good name. The fact that even Phoenix seems unsure to sign her tells you everything you need to know about how bad this situation has become when the team you're trying to force your way to doesn't even want you anymore. You've completely missed the situation. The funny thing is that Bonner probably would have ended up in Phoenix eventually anyway if she had just been patient. And professional players move around the league all the time through trades and free agency. Instead, she chose the nuclear option and maybe burned bridges with everyone. This situation is also bad for the Indiana Fever team. They put in a lot of money and resources in Bonner, built marketing campaigns around her, and now they look foolish for trusting someone who left them at the first sign of trouble. It makes it harder for them to get other older free agents in the future. The young players on the Fever team are probably looking at this situation and learning all the wrong lessons. Instead of seeing how an older player handles trouble with grace and professionalism, they're seeing someone run away when things get hard. That's not the kind of guidance they need. Caitlin Clark has handled this situation with more class and grown-up behavior than Bonner. Even though she is many years younger and much less experienced, Clark is still showing up, still playing hard, still trying to lead her team even though she was left by someone she looked up to. That's real leadership. The business effects for Bonner will go beyond this Season 2. Future teams will remember how she handled this situation when they think about whether to sign her. Why would you invest in someone who might just quit on you when things don't go their way? The fact that Bonner thought she could control the whole process and make rules for the league shows how out of touch she's become. The WNBA isn't her own playground where she gets to make demands and have everyone do what she wants. She's learning the hard way that actions have results. Dana Bonner really thought she could quit on her team and still have the whole league begging to sign her. Reality just gave her a tough lesson about results and good name. Sometimes karma works just like it should. What do you think about teams avoiding Bonner? Drop your thoughts below, smash that like button, and subscribe for more WNBA drama.